the night. That's the only time I feel really alive.
That's what David wanted.
Blood, I was to find, was a necessity as well.
A vampire in love with a slayer. It's rather poetic. I am the monster the breathing men would kill. I am Dracula.
Good evening, my fellow vampire lovers. The sun is going down, and you know what that means. It's time for me to record another episode of my podcast, The Beautiful Dead. As always, I'm your host, Alina Nazari. Go to all the things and look for the Beautiful Dead podcast. That's how you can find me, request things you want me to watch, or you can click on the link in the description and join my Discord. That's where we talk about stuff every day, all day long. When this is premiering, hopefully, we have just finished Father's Day. So when people were requesting movies for me to cover in June, someone asked for this one, and I thought that'd be perfect for Father's Day. It feels very much like the kind of movie a dad would sit down and watch with his kids and get a real kick out of. I had never seen it. I was able to track it down. It is completely free on YouTube if you want to go watch it, but I was able to find it on DVD for very inexpensive, so now it's part of my DVD collection. But we are talking about Billy the Kid versus Dracula. We are talking about Billy the Kid versus Dracula. Sorry, my phone just rang, so I had to turn it off. It came out in the 60s. It's just over it's like an hour and 12 minutes, so it's not even that long. I will say the copy I have on DVD and the copy on YouTube, not like the greatest. It's a little hard to see, but you can get the hang of it. You know what's happening. Now, if you've never watched this show, if you've never listened to my podcast, massive spoiler alert, I talk about it from beginning to end, and then we kind of talk about the vampires in the film, what are their rules, that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a new tattoo. I have a Lilith tattoo. Obviously, the people in my Discord found out like immediately, and then I posted it on social media. But now you get to see it on YouTube because I'm wearing a tank top, and she is healing beautifully. So if you're just listening and you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to social media or YouTube. Anywho, massive spoiler alert. Okay. Let's talk about Billy the Kid versus Dracula, now that I've said the title 3 times. This is going to be a quick episode, so this is a good one when you're like on the treadmill. Right out of the gate, we have a vampiric crossover. Mr. John Carradine is back on this podcast for the 3rd time. He was in Dr. Dracula. Yes, I covered it. He actually played Dracula in Nocturna. I've covered that one. And then 3 that I haven't covered yet, Vampire Hookers, Las Vampiras, where he played Count Alucard, and then Blood of Dracula's Castle. So John Carradine, who's no longer with us, loved a vampire film. And he was his usual vampire self in this movie. And if you've watched my podcast, you know what I'm talking about. All right, let's talk about it. I have a glass of bats. I don't know if you could see it because we have bats in the movie. So, all right, we open on a bat flying in the sky, and we see, this is the Old West, obviously. And there's a family of 3, and they're sleeping on the ground out in the middle of nowhere next to their covered wagon. And the bat's flying over top of it. The mother wakes. She tells her husband, she's like, it's here, I know it. It's been following us. And he's like, oh, stop being silly. And you can tell right out of the gate that they're German. He goes back to sleep, but she goes to check on her child, which is this beautiful young daughter named Lisa. She takes her cross off and lays it in Lisa's palm and closes her fingers over the cross. So then the mother lays back down. The bat flies behind the wagon, and out from behind the wagon comes a man in a cape. Lisa opens her eyes, but she's mesmerized by Dracula. And oh my gosh, his face when he mesmerizes, I can't. It's every time I saw it, I just wanted to bust out laughing. But anywho, she's mesmerized. He leans over her, he bites, he starts to feed, but then her hand opens up and he sees the cross. So he backs up and he backs away and then he disappears. Also, the disappearing effect in this movie, guys, it's free. Go watch it now. He disappears, the girl sits up, she screams for her mother, and then she passes out. And now the parents see the bite on her throat and they know that she has been attacked by a vampire. And then we get our opening credits. Now we are on a wagon, okay, like a covered wagon. And Dracula is on the wagon, sitting next to a man, and then across from him are a man and a woman. And they explain that they like found him on the side of the road and they picked him up to take him to the nearest town, which is where they're headed. Meanwhile, two men who are driving the horses are like, that guy's kind of weird. And the other guy is like, listen, if you can't be tougher than this, you should probably find a new job. So the one thing they mentioned that I did want to point out is they go, yeah, but did you see the horses are really jumpy around him? So we know that Dracula affects the horses at the very least. All right, so the couple in the wagon are named Mary and James. Mary is a widow, and this is her brother, James. The man next to Dracula is Joe. He's a whiskey salesman. He offers Dracula a sample. Drac is not interested. I was really hoping he was going to be like, I never drink whiskey, but what a missed opportunity. But he's like, nah, I don't want it. Mary explains that she has a bad heart. She's been running a ranch since her husband died, and it's just her and her beautiful daughter and the ranch hands. And so she's convinced her brother to come out and basically help her by taking over the ranch for her. And she explains that she has this beautiful 18-year-old daughter and that the daughter has never met James. James has never met the daughter. So this is the first time they're going to meet each other. And she's like, do you want to see a picture? And she hands the picture over to Dracula. And Dracula has the creepiest fucking response to this picture. If I saw this man's response to a picture of my daughter, I would snatch that picture out of his hand so fast. But he's like basically salivating. And she's like, yeah, my cattle ranch is named the Double Bar B. And it's famous because it used to have a silver mine, but now it's just a cave. But we emptied all of the stuff out of the cave, so now I'm super, super rich. Oh my goodness. At this point in time, we've already had to pause because my phone rang, then the battery died, and then I ran out of storage, so I had to erase stuff. All right. Okay. So Dracula has just looked at this picture in like the weirdest way ever. And she's like, yep, we live on this ranch. We're 20 miles outside of town. There's basically like no one to protect us. And my daughter has never met her uncle before. So he's like, great, awesome. Can I see the picture again? And she hands it over again. And his eyes are so huge. Like, first off, there's no reason to ask to see a stranger's daughter's picture for the second time. Also, that reaction is so, it's like the eyeball version of just like jerking off in front of her. It's so weird. I hate it so much. But obviously you're not supposed to like Dracula. So, all right. So the wagon stops in a town. Everyone climbs out of the wagon to check out the town. And there are campfires on the edge of town. And they're like, one of the guys is like, don't worry, that's just a wandering band of Indians. And I'm just like, oh, Lord. Dracula notices a beautiful young native girl. He like wanders over to her as everybody's inside, disappears, reappears in front of her, then he disappears again after he mesmerizes her. It's like a very, very weird interaction because Dracula is super weird in this. So cut to the next morning. The wagon has decided they're leaving without Dracula. He didn't come back. They don't know where he is. They're like, we just need to go. The next wagon can take him. And the people who are climbing on the wagon are like, it's probably those savages. And I'm like, oh my God. Meanwhile, we see the beautiful native girl from the night before. She's dead. She has bite marks on her neck. So the natives ride out to chase down the wagon because they think somebody on this wagon killed this girl. Now we cut to the wagon on its side in the middle of nowhere. A bat approaches, flies behind it. Then Dracula emerges and sees Mary, James, Joe, and the 2 drivers are all dead on the road. So he takes the picture of Mary out of her purse and then takes James's wallet and then smiles. Yikes. Now we cut to the ranch. There are 2 ranch hands. One is named Red, the other I have no idea. So there's Red and the other guy. And they're talking about how Billy showed up on the ranch. He got the foreman job and he has Betty's love. And Red is pissed off because Red wanted both. Now we finally get to see the beautiful daughter, Betty. She is learning how to shoot with Billy. Apparently Billy is new to town. He's in love with Betty. They want to get married, but they're afraid to tell Betty's mother and uncle. He's nervous because he used to be Billy the Kid, and he knows if they find this out, they won't approve of him, even though he's a respectable man now. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we have to go to town and meet up with Mary and James because their stagecoach is going to be here any minute. Meanwhile, in town, Dracula arrives to the saloon and asks for a room. He tells the bartender his name is James, and he is the brother of Mary, who owns the ranch. He's there from Boston. He's waiting for his niece to arrive. And they're like, oh, we thought you were coming later. And he's like, nope, I got here early. And he's given the last room in the inn, and he heads up to his room. Billy comes in for a beer and is told about James having gotten there early. Billy's confused because, again, he was supposed to be on the same coach with his sister. So he's like, I'm going to go up and meet Betty's uncle. So he goes up to room 10 and knocks on the door. Dracula answers, and Billy introduces himself as the foreman of the ranch. And he's like, your niece is really excited to meet you, but we expected you to be here later. Then as they're chatting in the room, there's a knock on the door, and the guy who is at the door is like, the stagecoach was attacked. So they all run down to be told by a local man named Ben that it was definitely Mary's coach and Mary is definitely dead. In the bar are our German parents from the beginning. They are there with their daughter, and they're trying to tell the locals that vampires are nearby, that they've been followed by a vampire their entire trip. And Ben says about this German family, he's like, yeah, we picked them up on the road. They won't stop talking about vampires. They keep saying one is following them. One of the locals runs his mouth to Billy, who punches him, and then we see very quickly that Billy is a very quick draw. So now we know, even though he said he's Billy the Kid, now we know he's Billy the Kid because we get to see it. So Billy returns to room 10 to tell Dracula, I'm really sorry, but your sister is dead. And Dracula's like, I hear there's a couple rambling about vampires. I want to talk to these guys. So he heads down. Lisa sees him and she's like, Mama, it's him. Dracula says, who do you think I am, my dear? And she says, the vampire. And he says, no, young lady, I'm James Underhill. And then he shows what I guess is proof of ID back then, which is probably just a piece of paper that says, my name is James. And the locals are like, well, obviously he's James. He has a piece of paper that says his name is James. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to head to the ranch. You guys take my room because I know I took the last room. Billy rides to the ranch on horseback and he meets up with Betty on her way into town. And he has to tell her, like, your mom is dead. Back in room 10, Lisa and her mother are in the bed. Dad is going to sit in a chair outside the room to protect his daughter and his wife while they sleep. A bat flies up to the window, and then just like that, Dracula's inside the room. So we know that he doesn't need to be invited in. He approaches Lisa, who is awake but mesmerized. Then he feeds, and she moans out loud, and this draws her dad into the room, but he's too late. Dracula is gone, and Lisa has a second bite mark. Betty is crying in Billy's arms, about her mom being dead. There's a knock at the door. Billy answers it to see Dracula, and Billy is like, we didn't hear a horse. And he's like, oh yeah, a man from town brought me, but he already left. He introduces himself to Betty as her uncle. He says, you're more beautiful than your picture. And then his eyes get really wide. So I don't know if he's trying to mesmerize her or he's just trying to show how in love he is with this girl. Either way, I don't like it. I don't like it. The next day in the saloon, Billy asks the bartender, do you know who took Betty's uncle to the ranch last night? Ben is like, listen, I don't know. Things have been really bad here. There was a murder last night. And he points to the German couple and he's like, their daughter died. Billy talks to the German couple, and the mother says it was a vampire, and I think Mr. Underhill is the vampire. And Billy's like, well, whether or not you're right, he's at the ranch with Betty, and he's alone with her right now. So at least he has enough of a sense to be like, I don't know if you're telling the truth or not, but your daughter is dead, and Underhill is kind of weird. So at least he's like, he's alone at the ranch, and they're like, oh my God, you have to get back to her. So the German couple says, you know what, we're not going to leave town. We're going to stay here in town and we're going to help you fight her, and we're going to make sure that he doesn't get her too, because that's how we're going to honor our daughter. And she's like, we'll be there, but you don't need to be here. And like, you need to get back to her. And they said, don't worry about us. You know, we'll be okay. And Billy's like, actually, can you come to the ranch later? And they said, yes. So Billy gets on a horse and rushes back to the ranch. Meanwhile, Dracula is comforting Betty. He's being so fucking creepy. And I'm not talking like vampire creepy. I'm talking like old perv creepy. It's so uncomfortable. And I'm sure John Carradine was a lovely person, but it weirds me out when I see stuff like this. And it's like when I watched Vampire in Venice, like the way that that actor was with the actress I was so uncomfortable. And this is a little bit like on the edge of that. Billy rushes in. Dracula says, he's been listening to superstitious foreigners and rushed out here because he believes I'm a monster. So either he can read minds, or he's just been through this dance so many times that he knows what's going on. Betty says, apologize. And Billy apologizes, but he explains that a girl in town did die and that the mother believes there's a vampire in town. And Betty says, oh my gosh, that's so silly. Dracula's like, I don't care what you're saying. I'm going to leave you two young people alone. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm very tired. I will probably sleep all day. Don't bother me. I'm like, okay. Billy tells Betty, like, hey, I told the German couple that they could come work on the ranch since they've just suffered a terrible loss. And she's like, no, that's fine. Please tell them, like, they can stay here. And he goes, okay, Betty, but please just listen to them, okay? That night they arrive. And the woman, I'll give them names now. The woman is named Eva. Eva goes to talk to Betty. And Eva's like, I brought Wolf's Bane to put around the windows to protect you from vampires. So in this world, Wolf's Bane will protect you from vampires. And Betty's like, you can't be serious. And Eva says, I am very serious. And she goes and she spreads Wolf's Bane around the window. And then she tells Betty, please leave it there. Please don't open the window. Eva says, this is a good line. Because it sounds so unreal, people don't protect themselves and then they die or worse. And then she says, when the vampire chooses a mate, he makes them like him, the undead. So we know what Dracula's plan is now. He's decided that Betty's not just going to be a victim, she's going to be his mate. At this point in time, Eva leaves to go to bed and leave Betty to sleep. Then we see a bat at the window, but it can't come in. So we know the Wolf's Bane works. Eva must have like a sixth sense because she gets out of bed and she comes down to check on Betty and the bat flies away. The next day she tells Billy about the Wolf's Bane and admits that Eva and the husband's name is Franz. She said, Eva and Franz have weird ideas, but I really do like them and I don't mind them being around. She chastises Billy for being so mean to her uncle. He apologizes, but does say, like, I'm afraid for you, and I just can't stand the idea of anything happening to you. So even if it's just like, hey, your mom just died, plus this girl in town just died, like, that's going to shake anybody up, right? On the ranch, Red and the other ranch hand tell Billy that they found a dead lamb on the land, and that Indian Jim, I hate this, says that he saw a big bat near the lamb. They think it was a wolf, and that Indian Jim was probably just drunk. Then they admit that they gave the carcass to Indian Jim. Then there's like words exchanged, and Red and Billy get into a fist fight, and Billy gets his ass handed to him. Yikes. Eva goes into someone's room, and I didn't know who it was at first, but then we see the mirror is flipped towards the wall, so that's when I'm like, oh, that's Dracula's room. She flips it back to face the bed. Then she goes into Betty's room, and she's going to hang the crucifix on the headboard when Betty comes in and tells her, you know what, take the cross, take the wolfsbane. I'm really done with all of this old world talk. And Eva's like, please don't do this. And Betty's like, I'm in charge, and I want you to take this shit out of my room. And so Eva reluctantly takes it and goes upstairs. Billy's with the doctor because he got his ass beat. And she's like, why do you keep getting into trouble? And then she's the town doctor, by the way. And we find out that like her husband was the doctor, but she was his nurse for so long that when he passed away, she basically like took up doctoring. But she just gives him liquor for his soreness. All right. He tells the doctor about the lamb whose throat was ripped open. Billy says, you know, I haven't had too much schooling. I don't know that much about vampires. So she goes and she grabs one of her late husband's books, which I guess he has books on the occult. Okay. And she reads, vampires are ghosts which leave their resting place at night to drink blood. Sometimes it kills the victim, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it picks a mate and turns that person into a vampire. They don't cast a reflection. So I'm like, okay, so we've heard twice now that vampires choose mates. So I think they're trying to drive it home that this is what Dracula's doing. And then she's like, she points at him and he's like, listen, don't you go trying this whole reflection thing on Mr. Underhill because you're going to lose your job. At the ranch, Betty says, Uncle, you should eat something you haven't eaten. So we know that all he does is drink blood. No eating, no drinking, because we saw it with the whiskey and now it's mentioned again. He asks if Betty was in his room and she's like, no. And then he asks Eva and she goes, well, yeah, I went in there to straighten up. And he says, don't you ever enter my room again. Then he says, hey, Betty, can you take me to see that abandoned silver mine? And she's like, oh, you mean the cave? There's nothing in there but scorpions and bats. And she's like, well, I really want to go see it. And Betty's like, okay. But then Eva kind of grabs her and says, you mustn't go. And Dracula tells her to shut up. Whee. So Betty takes him to see this mine, which now that there's nothing in it, all the silver's been taken. It's just like a big, huge cave. And he asks her about her hopes and dreams. And she says, I want to stay in town. I want to get married. I want to have kids. And then he like tries to mesmerize her. You see his eyes. He's doing the mesmerization thing. But I don't know. It's just like not working. And then she's like, didn't you want to go inside? And he goes, oh, yes. But she's like, I'm not going to go inside. I'm too scared. So I'll sit here and wait while you go check it out. He heads in with a torch. Billy rides up to Betty and asks, why would your uncle want to go into the mine? And then he mentions that another lamb was found with its throat cut and it's getting really spooky and he doesn't like it and he wants to find out what's going on. She says, please leave my uncle out of it. And he says, I need you to do something for me. I need you to ask your uncle to stand in front of a mirror. And she's like, fine, but you better leave now because if he sees you when he comes out, you're going to be in more trouble. So he rides off and then we see that Dracula was watching. At the saloon, Billy asks the sheriff if they know who the men were killed in the stagecoach. And apparently all the people except one have been identified, and that's because the one man does not have an ID on him. And he goes, what if that was really Betty's uncle and the killer took his papers? And I'm like, yeah, Billy's like the only one with brains in this town. And the sheriff is like, oh, so you're listening to the Germans, are you? You better head back before you cause more problems. Like, oh my God. Meanwhile, Red has been listening to the entire thing. So he goes back to the ranch and tells Dracula what Billy's been spreading about him. Betty looks down and tells Eva about how Billy wants her to ask her uncle to stand in front of a mirror. And Eva's like, oh, the mirror test. And before she can explain anything else, Dracula comes in, so Eva hightails it out. Later, Red brings Billy to Dracula, and Dracula says, you've been causing problems for me since I arrived here. I will not keep an employee who defies me. Sorry, I lost my place. I just hit... He says, I won't keep an employee who defies me. And Billy goes, well, it's up to Betty. You're not my boss. So Dracula calls Betty in and reveals that Billy is Billy the Kid. And she says, I know, and we're going to be married. And Dracula says, psh, over my dead fucking body. So he's like, I won't allow it. And he locks her in her room. Dracula tells Red, see to it that Billy leaves this ranch, and if he returns, he is to be shot. And Red is like more than happy to follow these orders. He is so excited. Dracula says, and it's time to take care of those immigrants. And then he goes to the couple, Franz and Eva, and he's like, you'll be living in the bunkhouse now. And Eva's like, no, I need to stay here. I need to protect Betty. Franz tells her they should listen. And Dracula says, by the way, anyone who is found wandering the land at night will be shot. So Franz leaves his wife to the bunkhouse. In the tavern, Billy's drinking away his sorrows, and Ben offers him a room upstairs. Red arrives, and he pulls a gun, and he says, Underhill wants you clean out of town. There's a gunfight, and Red loses. Billy goes to the doctor, and he's like, oh my God, I killed Red Thorpe. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He's so worried about Betty back at the ranch with Dracula. At the ranch, Dracula enters Betty's room. She wakes, and he tells her, this is so creepy. I can't stand it. It escalates really fast, okay?
From the moment I saw your picture, I wanted you.
He goes, from the moment I saw your picture, I wanted you to become my mate. Tomorrow you shall become as me, the undead. And he finally mesmerizes her, and she says, if that is your wish. And then he bites her. Then we cut to him making a bed in the cave. Like, he's like fixing a red satin comforter over top of a bed in the middle of the fucking cave. And I was like, this escalated so fast. Holy cow. Billy rides up on a horse. Eva takes breakfast to Betty, who is in bed, and sees the bite marks on Betty's throat. Billy comes into the house, and Eva's crying, and she's like, I have failed her. You must go get her to the doctor quickly. So then we cut to Betty at the doctor, and she's basically in a coma. So either he's like mesmerized her into a coma, or he took way too much blood. The doctor says, I've actually been reading up on the subject, and I think you're right. I think there is a vampire in town. The sheriff comes in to arrest Billy for the murder of Thorpe. And he's like, I understand that it's self-defense. I understand it was witnessed, but you still have to go through the trial. You still have to stand before the judge. So Billy looks at the doctor, and he's like, please, please protect her. At the ranch, Dracula comes in to see that Betty is not there. Eva watches him come in from the kitchen. And so Dracula comes in and says, where is my niece? And Franz says, Billy took her. The doctor is trying to talk to Betty, but the girl just like stares off. So I think she's fully mesmerized at this point. Dracula's talking to the sheriff about Billy's arrest, and he finds out that Betty's at the doctor's. He's given directions and heads out. He's like, why would you tell him that? But we're still in the days of like, he showed me a paper that says his name is James, and he said he's her uncle. So he's in charge. It's like, oh my God. Girls were so not safe back then. So he shows up at the doctor's. Dracula comes, sorry guys, my tattoo's it's at the itchy stage. I'm trying to ignore it. Dracula comes into the doctor's. Oh my God, the people listening to the podcast, this mic probably just picked up me scratching at my tattoo. I'm so sorry. Oh boy. All right, let's push through. Okay. Dracula comes into the doctor's and he says, I'm James Underhill. I'm taking my niece home. And the doc says no, so he pushes her out of the way. She grabs a mirror and holds it up, and we see him pick up Betty and turn. And in the mirror, we only see Betty floating in the air, which, by the way, for this time, I was like, okay, that's a solid effect. He growls and then he runs out of the room. The doctor goes to the jail, and she shows up with a scalpel, and she's like, this is to stake the vampire. You need to go save Betty right now. Billy is like, you have to let me out here. You have to let me go kill this vampire. And the sheriff is like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's take 3 steps back. What the fuck is going on? So the doctor and Billy are both trying to tell the sheriff, like, this is a vampire. Betty is going to die. So finally, Billy pulls a gun on the sheriff, and he says, you better let me out. So the sheriff does. And the sheriff is like, don't do this. But he lets him out. The sheriff tries to give him, the doctor tries to give him the scalpel. He's like, a gun is not going to work. And Billy's like, oh yeah, watch me. And he leaves. So the doctor turns to the sheriff and she's like, we need to follow because a gun is not going to help. So now the sheriff and the doctor go out to a wagon. They're also going to head to the ranch. We see Dracula pull up to the cave and carry Betty towards it. Billy rides up on horse. Oh, P.S. For those of you who watch my podcast and my channel, and you know how much I love seeing Dracula like carry a girl. It's one of my favorite tropes. Not in this one. I did not like it in this one. I hated every second of it, okay? I just kept thinking like 18-year-old girl. It's just so fucking scary. I don't know if it's because I'm a mom or a woman or just the way he was acting. I was like, I hate this so much. And it's a cave. It's like a satin bed in a cave. Oh, God. Anywho. All right. Dracula is carrying Betty to the cave. Billy rides up on horseback to the ranch house. He asks Eva, where are they? And then she's like, they're not here. So he's like, fuck the cave. So he jumps on his horse and rides off. Dracula is now, Betty is up. He's like leading her into the mine. She's still mesmerized. Meanwhile, the doctor and the sheriff are not far behind. Thank goodness. Dracula leads her to the bed and lights the torches around it and says, soon we will be as one. Now I will put you to sleep, and when you wake, you will be like me, one of the undead. She lays down onto the bed. Dracula's like waving his hands and saying, sleep, sleep. Billy reaches the mine and heads in. He calls out for Betty and Dracula hears it, so he goes and hides. Billy reaches Betty and tries to wake her up, but Dracula emerges. So Billy shoots him like so many times, and Dracula is not fazed at all, which is what the doctor tried to tell him, but he didn't listen. So Dracula grabs Billy and is choking him and growling. Billy passes out and hits the ground. Dracula's out of shape because Dracula's panting in this. Like, he is hyperventilating. I'm like, Drac, buddy, go for a run or something. Thankfully, into the mine comes the sheriff and the doctor. Dracula goes to bite Betty. When the two of them come in, the sheriff fires on him. It does nothing. Billy grabs the gun and throws it at Dracula, and at least like this causes Dracula to fall backwards. So then Billy grabs the silver scalpel and drives it into his chest using a rock. So I'm like, what was the bat then? I guess it's meant to be artistic or meant to be like his spirit flying away. You guys tell me what you think. Anywho, Betty wakes, the spell is broken, and Billy says, come on, honey, we're going home. And then they kiss and he carries her out. Credits. It's like the perfect ending to this like 60s Western love story, hero saves the girl kind of thing. It's the perfect little ending. And the doctor's so sassy. I just love it. Anywho, I just have to say a couple things. So first, I think the scenes with Dracula, even though it looks like daylight, are kind of supposed to be like dusk. I think it's just they shot in the daylight. Maybe they didn't have the right filters or whatever. So I think it's supposed to be dusk when they're filming. So we'll assume he can't be in the sun. Because he makes a point to say, like, I'm going to sleep all day, don't bother me. And then, obviously, he doesn't get back in the wagon in town because he's sleeping somewhere. And I think he's supposed to have 2 sharp canines based on the marks that are on throats. They probably just didn't have them back then, or it just wasn't in the budget. But we never see him with fangs. I do like the old country people, like, trying to warn the Western folk, but they're not listening because, oh, they're crazy foreigners. And I love the wolfsbane on the window. It's very, very classic Dracula, which is really fun. And for, like, a very short, silly movie, it was a lot of fun. This is a great movie to watch with a family. Like, it's just one of those things that you can be like, yep, I've seen it. All right, let's talk about the ratings. How sexy or alluring is Dracula? So I know I started a whole thing where all vampires get one honorary point just for being vampires, and then I usually give an extra point for them being Dracula. But this Dracula weirded me out so bad. it's not just that he's lusting after like young, beautiful girls. That's fine. That's a classic Dracula thing. It's just that like pretending to be her uncle and the way he looks at the picture and then the satin bed in the cave. This whole thing gave me such an ick that I had to give him 0 out of 10. Sorry, 0 out of 10 ongs for sexiness and allure. I was too weirded out. And I don't think he would be a very nice maker. I don't think he would be nice to her at all. I think he'd be very controlling, and I just hate the whole thing. So I did not find him sexy at all. And he's not alluring in any stretch of the imagination. All right, let's talk about scariness and evil. I actually forgot to write this down, so we're going off the cuff. All right, so he can turn into a bat, which means he can fly. He doesn't need invited in, but he is stopped by Wolfsbane. He is bound by the sun, but obviously he doesn't have to sleep in a coffin or anything. He killed somebody just to have access to the girl, which is fucked. He has no problem with just taking people, killing people. I mean, that's classic vampire stuff, but like just no regard. He just does not care at all. He can disappear right in front of your eyes. He can mesmerize you. A gun did absolutely nothing to him. I mean, all in all, this was a solid vampire. I feel like he should be somewhere between like a 6 and a 7, but I can't pick, so I'm just gonna go with 6.5 out of 10 stakes to the heart for scariness and evil. I mean, I would not want this guy, this version of Dracula, to show up and turn me. I really wouldn't. And I definitely don't want him anywhere near my daughter. Oh my God. So yeah, this guy is way more scary and evil than he is sexy and alluring. I mean, I hated every second of this. So my thoughts. So first off, I want to say thank you to Stephen Helmer Publications. That's the person who recommended this to me. And when I saw it, sometimes people troll me. So when I saw somebody request Billy the Kid versus Dracula, I'm like, is that a thing? And then I found it, and then I was able to track it down. I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening. We are doing this on Father's Day, because this felt like the kind of movie that a dad would just love. The Western stuff was fun. I'm not a big Western fan, but just like the old school, watching them jump on the horses and gunfight and all that, I was like, oh, this is so classic. I love it. To throw Dracula into it made it a lot of fun. I wish the Dracula was just a little more scary and a little less pervy, but I think they were trying to get the point across very quickly. Like, you knew his motives very quickly, and they probably said, like, we need this to be a bad guy, and they made him a bad guy, okay? I loved the German couple. I love the idea of, like, you know, people with superstitions trying to tell you and you won't listen. And then I loved the doctor. I thought she was such a great character, and I absolutely loved her. I hope I'm like that. If for some reason I do end up growing old, I hope I'm that kind of person. I hope I'm like, no nonsense, you know, tell the sheriff, get him out of here. Like, I just loved that character. So all in all, this was really fun. Like I said, it's free on YouTube. So if you want to have a fun family movie night and you have some kids that just love Westerns, like, they'd probably get a kick out of this, because who doesn't know Dracula, right? So this is like kind of a fun thing. It feels like a crossover. So it feels like Universal Monsters meets, you know, Western, which is fun. You guys, please let me know what you want me to watch. I do have pretty much the next few months figured out, but if you send me something and I'm intrigued enough, I will actually make it a bonus episode. I'm working on one right now that somebody requested, and I was so intrigued by it that I sat down and watched it. And then I was talking to somebody, they mentioned this movie randomly out of the blue, and I was like, oh my God, I just watched it and I'm covering it. So I invited her onto the podcast, so we're going to talk about it and we're going to make it a bonus episode. So please don't hesitate to just throw stuff out at me. You never know what will intrigue me enough for me to just make it happen. As of right now, we did this one. Next week we're doing another request, which is Vampiros Lesbos, which I think is on Tubi. And then we will head into July which is all Castlevania. So Netflix Castlevania seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 is what we're doing in July. So go follow me on all the stuff. Please, I haven't said this in a while, please like, share, subscribe. It makes a huge difference for my YouTube channel. So please keep this momentum going. As always, I want to give like a special thank you to my Fang gang, the people in the Discord. I just love you guys so much. I love when I see a new person come into the Discord. I love, like, I get busy and then I go into the Discord and I see all these great conversations and the way people are just like looking out for each other and being kind to each other. And I just love what we've built so much. So please go be a part of it. In the meantime, happy Father's Day to the fathers, whether it be furry fathers or fathers of human beings. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being good people. I love you all. I will see you next week. I wish you wicked hugs and bloody kisses. Good evening.